Donald Trump is about to become the president of the United States. Donald Trump, it feels weirder and weirder every time I say it, but that's the reality. A lot of people want answers as to why someone like Donald Trump could become the president of the United States. But could the answer be very simple, and was it actually because of Facebook? It does sort of feel like the world is unraveling a little bit. It feels like a very scary time, and therefore people are really thirsty for information. People want news. They want to keep tabs on what's happening in the world around them. Facebook is an international company. It's all around the world. There's over 2 billion users, which is unfathomable when you think about how many people that is. And never in the history of humankind have people been able to communicate through one specific medium and get their news from it. In order to really understand how Facebook currently could have played a role in the last election, we need to go all the way back to radio. So radio is essentially the original internet. It's how people got their information. So they'd put their radio cassette in the middle of the room and stand around and be like, "Oh, Jimmy, it's information time!" So in Canada, where I currently am right now, we have something called the CBC, which is the Canadian Broadcasting Company. This is a publicly funded news source that's supposed to be bipartisan and helps us to make sure that we're getting correct facts. It's very similar to the BBC in Britain. So way back when radio was still thriving and everyone was tuning on in and families were jazzing about, there were about 3 specific networks, and those networks were then regulated by the government. And so what would happen is that they would have to report on specific types of news that were real, that people needed to know. In no way were they necessarily interesting or clickbait or fake. Flash forward to the 1980s, and Ronald Reagan decides to deregulate media. So in America, you have NPR and PBS, which are publicly funded, but they are extremely underfunded by the government when you compare it to things like the CBC or the BBC. And that brings us to Facebook. So 6 to 3 months before the election, conventional news sources were still the most popular things on Facebook. That's New York Times, Fox News, Washington Post. But 3 months before the election, and right up to the election, it completely switched, and fake news became the most popularly clicked and shared news sources on Facebook. And this is because Facebook is an algorithm. I mean, you've probably heard lots about this. It's designed so that we click more, engage more, and want to go back to the website. 1, the algorithm is designed to understand what you like and then give you more of the same thing. And so this is a really important aspect of how we form our ideologies. When we're going on Facebook, we're seeing the same types of content that's catered to the way that we already think. It doesn't allow us to be challenged and understand diverse minds and understand how other people think. And this is really dangerous when it comes to actually deciding what our ideologies are and deciding what we want to stand up for when it comes to the society we're living in. 2, fake news is able to flourish because you're able to create articles and ideas and stories that aren't true, but they're therefore maybe more exaggerated, more interesting, more easy to click. This created very popular articles, like the fact that Jay-Z and Beyonce were paid $68 million to play at a fundraiser for Hillary Clinton. They do not need that money, and it was not true. Or how it was reported that People magazine found a quote of Donald Trump saying that he would only run for the Republican Party because the party's stupid enough to believe that he could be president, which was also not true. Although studies did find that leading up to the election, pro-Trump and anti-Hillary Clinton fake news was way more popular than pro-Clinton and anti-Trump fake news. The people making these fake news articles were realizing that if they made pro-Trump fake news, it would do better. So they obviously decided to continue to do it, which allowed it to flourish. In some cases, it was being created in places like Macedonia by these teenagers who were making fake websites and making money off of it. So of course, it's a capitalist thing for them. They're thinking, we make more money if we make more pro-Trump fake news and put it on Facebook, and it worked. And the fact that we all fall for fake news isn't our own fault. It's literally built into our physiology. Studies show that if you can actually create a headline that evokes more of an emotional response, you're more likely to click it. So if you're making fake news, you have a lot more options to create a specific news story that's going to evoke something in someone, rather than a specific journalist who's having to report on the real news that's happening. There's a lot of people that think that it's up to Facebook to regulate this, but I kind of disagree. It's a new company. It's designed to make money, get more users, and I think it's kind of odd that it's so new and barely even has any experience with how to run a media platform, that maybe something else needs to happen. And this brings me back to the CBC, the BBC, and publicly funded media platforms. I think it's integral that America realize that they are an outlier and that they do need to have the government increase funding and actually learn how to create a media platform that will be bipartisan and give people facts and something that people can rely on. Personally, I can't tell if it's just me, but I feel like for the first time in my life, I'm very unsure about the future of humanity. And I think that therefore, this is a time when we need access to real information. So we can form what we believe in, we can form ideologies. I personally think that 2017 should be the year of us all standing up for what we believe in, protesting, getting out there, speaking to politicians, and figuring out how can we help to form the world that A, we want to currently live in, and that our kids are going to be able to literally even just survive in. The unregulated media in the States, the internet, Facebook, fake news, all of these things were a contributing factor into getting Donald Trump elected as president. And he has given us no indication that he is going to be predictable. A lot of people don't know what's going to happen. And therefore, we have an unpredictable president in an unpredictable time. So that's my opinion about the crazy world we're living in. And below in the description, you can see the articles and podcasts I listen to help form this idea. And you know what? I want you to comment on this video, things you want us to talk about. What is your opinion on this matter? I think it's time that we all start talking to each other, learning from each other, and giving each other constructive criticism, because I know you trolls are out there. You can follow me on Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week for a new video.